An employee handbook becomes the standard in which you hold your people accountable for their actions, their behavior, their job performance. This should honestly be the place where everything you expect of them is documented, and we hold them accountable if they fall short of these expectations. Welcome back to the Elite Business Advice podcast. My name is Chris Moore, the founder of Elite Business Advisors, your host of the Elite Business Advice podcast here. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had an employee that you needed to let go of, but you struggled to follow through with it because you knew you didn't have the right process in place? Are you a passive leader that hates conflict? I feel you. I don't love it either. I used to struggle with that a lot. Do you fall short at holding the line on your own employees? If so, I relate. But if so, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about 3 key HR systems you should have in place for your business. And I don't necessarily mean recruiting, although sometimes when I say HR, because it is human resources and managing people, I do talk about the interviewing systems, the structure, the apprenticeship pathway, the 30, 60, 90-day reviews with your employees, new employees and stuff. There's that. But I also want to really talk tactical today from a legal side of it, although this is not legal advice. But to really understand what are some key systems, 3 things that we should have in place for managing people and making sure that our butts are covered. So I hope it helps. Thanks for plugging in. This is the Elite Business Advice podcast. All right, so before I even get into the 3 systems, let's just understand why this matters so much. Number 1, a single unemployment claim costs employers an average of about $4,200 and sometimes can run $10,000 or more when all is said and done if it drags out. Okay. Unemployment can cripple you. Unemployment claims last on your record for 3 years on average, and usually increase your rates. Now, I say a lot of things here because a lot of unemployment programs are run by the states. The states have different laws and stipulations and the way that they handle them. So I'm kind of just throwing some generalized knowledge out here. But understand that an unemployment claim, whether it's correct or not, can really start to increase the financial burden on your company, especially if you end up with multiple of them. Okay. It's not something to freak out about. It's also potentially not something to let influence a decision if you need to make it because you're afraid that they could come and file unemployment against you and increase your cost. Like, don't not let somebody go because you're worried about this. It is something to consider, but in a severe case, don't let somebody go because you don't have the things in place we're going to talk about and because you're afraid they're going to file unemployment. Okay. The last reason why this matters is the last thing I want any of you ever dealing with is a wrongful termination lawsuit of some sort. Now, I don't know what that could be, but people can be crazy. Anybody listening to this, you deal with people, whether it's homeowners, whether it's employees, you understand people be crazy, right? And so I just don't want you to be in a spot where anybody could ever come back and say that you let them go because of the color of their skin, their gender, their age, their like whatever, okay? Again, I know you listening to this wouldn't actually do that, but people are crazy, okay? Because here's the thing. Typically, you aren't letting good, reasonable, logical, complying human beings go because typically those people are the ones that don't need let go, usually. So it's always good, as I mentioned, to cover your butts, okay? So let's talk about the 3 systems that I think you should have in place in your painting company to kind of CYA yourself here, all right? Number 1, we need an employee handbook, okay? An employee handbook becomes the standard in which you hold your people accountable for their actions, their behavior, their job performance. This should honestly be the place where everything you expect of them is documented, and we hold them accountable if they fall short of these expectations. Okay, plain and simple. That is the goal of an employee handbook. It is good to set a standard and have an expectation and get off to the right track with them and teach them what you expect of them. But more than anything, we need something that we can hold them accountable to. Right? You can't get mad that somebody's showing up late every day because you told them one time at their interview 2 years ago that you start at 9 o'clock sharp and you need everybody there by 8:55 every day. That is not how you hold somebody accountable. Okay. This employee handbook should have a page on it or a separate page that they sign that they received it, have read through it, and acknowledge everything in it that you then keep on file in their employee file. Oh, fun fact. You should have an employee file for every employee, right? This is where all the documents go, things that they've signed, their paperwork, their W-4, their I-9, their, all the stuff. Every employee should have a file, by the way. So this is one more thing that should be in that file. They should sign it saying, I got it, I read it, I agree to it. Bam. Now you can hold them accountable both in principle, but also legally. Okay. What else should be included in this employee handbook? Well, a couple things. Behavior and conduct standards. That's a pretty straightforward one. Attendance and call-out procedures, including being late, how to handle call-outs, and what your attendance policy is, and your expectations around this. Okay. Your drug and alcohol policy. This is a big one, right? Especially should there ever be a workers' comp situation. And if there's one of these in place and they fail a drug screen or anything of the sort, that will really help you out both on your workers' comp and if you need to let them go, and again, in principle. Should also have grounds for termination. So basically, what is an acceptable, termination of their position, and then other policies and expectations of their performance. Okay. This can include, right now, this is where I think you can get as micro as you want to with it. And to be honest with you, the more specific you are, I think the better for what we're going to talk about here in point number 2. But this is where you could put things like, as a painter in our company, we expect you to have a drop cloth underneath you at all times when you have, paint or stain out, right? We expect you to clean out the sprayer every time where there is clear water running through it when you are done, right? Like, I know this may sound a little bit crazy, but things like that allow you to hold them accountable, right? It's good for behavior and conduct. It's good for the attendance policy and being late every day and all those things. It's great for the drug and alcohol thing. But we also need to kind of have some expectations and some policies regarding their job that they're doing for you, right? Because this is how we hold them accountable. Where to start? All right. I'm just going to say it. Because again, this isn't legal advice, so I can pretty much say whatever I want now that I've made that disclaimer here. Go to AI if you have to. Okay. I think it's great to still review it yourself, add your own stuff into it. I think it's great to have your attorney review it. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know that it's worth the cost of having an attorney write this from scratch because of the cost of it. But I think they need to review it. They need to make sure that all local, state, and federal and county laws are taken into account here, which is why it's always good to have a lawyer in your market review anything like this that we're using for legal process. Okay, so that's just my thought. Okay, I think Chat, Claude, Gemini, they can get it 80 to 90% there. I think that's a great starting point. But again, have an attorney review it before you just roll this out. Don't just chat GPT something, throw it out there, and then we find out later on it's like not even enforceable because you have all these state laws that don't even apply or whatever stupid thing's going to happen because of this. Okay. So there, number 1, employee handbook. Have it. You'll thank me later. Number 2, what do we do with that? Number 2 is written warnings and having a 3-strike process. I'm a big baseball fan. Okay, I think you know this if you listen to enough episodes. 3 strikes and you're out. It's just pretty easy and straightforward. Most of America understands that concept. So what do we want to do is every time an employee violates the employee handbook or they fail to live up to those standards you've set forth, such as I've told you 9 times to put a drop cloth underneath you in the last week, you keep splattering on the floor and you're not doing it. If it's in your employee handbook, you can write them up for it. Okay. So we need to have a written warning anytime that they violate the employee handbook. Now, here's something I want to say. All right. It's good to have all of these things in place, very much by the book. It is 100% up to your discretion whether you follow through and enforce it. All right. Understand that you putting, and I'm using the drop cloth as like an example of like a job performance thing. I hear about it a lot, and it's kind of like one of those, like, how do you handle this, right? You put that in there about you always have to have drop cloth underneath you. New painter, 4th day, you walk over to them, they don't have a drop cloth underneath them. You're not going to probably write them up about it. Okay. This is where I say repeatable offenses. But like the 7th time, over a short period of time, like you're going to eventually be like, hey, listen, this is part of our employee handbook. It's part of our expectations for our job. You have failed the last 10 times. I'm going to give you one more shot. If you don't do it again, we're going to have to write you up for it. Okay. So that's like a way that you can handle that. Again, don't also just never enforce the things, because that's useless as well. Because eventually they're going to go, well, Chris says that we have all these standards and expectations, but he doesn't enforce any of it, right? This isn't the like we're trying to make an example out of people, but you got to find a good line. And this is where being a leader gets to be really hard, especially for a lot of you guys listening to this that are probably, I always say they were doers, right? You were a great painter. You are a great painter. You started a business. You've now went from being the doer to being a manager and leader of people. And now you have 8 employees, all with varying problems, personalities, and things that you have to manage. None of us took leadership courses, even if we did in college, school, whatever. It's just irrelevant. Okay. I learned more about managing people when I actually had to manage people than I ever did in a freaking classroom. So keep that in mind. Don't ever say, oh, Chris, you went to college, it must be so easy. Great, I have a piece of paper. But document. Okay, sorry, I got off on a tangent there. You have discretion. Find a happy medium between over-enforcing and under-enforcing. And if I had to guess, most of you guys listening to this under-enforce the crap out of every standard and expectation you have in your business because you just hate doing it. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're a bad leader. It's that you hate conflict and you just want paint jobs done and money in your bank. I get it. Okay. So have a written warning. Write them up when they violate these things. 3 strikes and you're out. I feel like that one's pretty straightforward. Well, I'll just say it. If you don't know what you're out means, it means you're out of the business. You're out of the company. You're gone. Okay. Go sit on the bench over at another painting company in town. What do you have in a write-up? A couple things that I would suggest. Needs to have a date that it happened, what happened. So what did they violate? What was the violation or the problem? What did you discuss with them? What's kind of that performance improvement plan, if you will? What's expected going forward? And then a signature from you and the employee both. They need to acknowledge it, and then this goes in there. Oh, you guessed it, employee file. If the employee refuses to sign it, document that on there as well. Employee refused to sign this write-up. I think it's always good to have a witness in that conversation too, just as a thought, just in case it gets into a he said, she said, whatever. I'll talk more about that here in a second. Okay, so document it. This, again, would be a great thing. ChatGPT can create a quick little template or something for you. Whatever it is, just have it in a write-up, put it in their employee file, hold on to it for forever. All right, system number 3. Now you've got the handbook. Now you've got the write-up policy and the 3 strikes are out. Now we need a termination process that protects you. Okay. Nobody wants to talk about termination. Nobody wants to talk about firing people. Okay. It's not fun. I've had to do it a lot over the years, with student painters and painters and branch managers and It was just inevitable. It was part of the job, right? We were hiring 18-year-old college students to go out and paint houses. It was inevitable I was going to have to fire some people. Okay. We weren't ruthless. We weren't a terrible company. We weren't just, hiring and firing nonstop. It wasn't that. But compared to most people, I probably fired more people than most of the people listening to this. It doesn't get easy. It never gets easier. It still sucks. But we need to have a process that kind of protects us in the meantime of this, right? So here's what I would say is how you fire someone matters as much as why. And, I find like with anything, when you have, I know you're going to hate me for saying this, when you have structure and you have a process, the execution of it is so much easier, especially when it comes to firing someone, okay? I feel the same about reviews. I feel the same about so many different things. Like when you have the structure, then you just go do the thing. Okay. So how you fire someone matters as much as why. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to have documented warnings and write-ups together on file before the meeting, like we just talked about. Okay. Have all that together. You should conduct the termination in private, definitely with a witness on this one. So somebody else in the company, preferably like higher level, if it's a painter, at least have the crew leader there. If you have an admin or a project manager, that'd be great. Just have somebody else there to witness, again, to make sure it doesn't become a he said, she said situation. Keep the conversation clear and professional. And I would also say the word simple, okay? Don't get emotional about it. Don't start apologizing. I'm so sorry we have to let you go. I don't want to do it. No. Unfortunately, today's your last day here. For these reasons, that's typically the violations and the documented warnings and write-ups you've went through. You violated our employee handbook on, 3 occasions within the last 180 days. And unfortunately, as you know, in the agreement that you signed in our employee handbook, we have a 3 strike and you're out policy. And so based on your last write-up the other day, today's your last day with us. We really appreciate your effort and we wish you the best. Plain and simple. Okay. Again, easier in theory, really easy for me to sit here and just say into this recording, not having to fire somebody that I just employed for 6 months sitting across from me with their little puppy dog eyes, probably starting to cry. Just keep it clear, keep it professional. It's not emotional. Don't go down the weeds. If they start asking questions, just, this is our final decision. You violated our policy. Thank you. Okay. Because the more you try to explain, the more you drag it out, the more they'll try to rationalize it. It doesn't go well. Just keep it clear, professional. Don't get deep in the weeds on it. Okay. Another thing that's good to do, provide a termination letter that states the reason. This is great to keep on file in their employee file, FYI. I'll talk about that why in a second. But give them the letter that states the reason of the write-ups and, the history. And then lastly, this one might be obvious, but collect all company property. So anything they have of yours needs to come back. Preferably, this is like a long shot, but like if they have employee t-shirts, you could try to have them drop that off at the office sometime. It'd be great. Because the last thing I want them to do is have an elite painting shirt on, getting arrested on the side of the street. Now, I'm just saying that that's an option. I never had that happen to my knowledge. I'm going to be very clear. But you just never know. Again, people are people. Okay. So, but at least make sure you get all your property back, keys, any of that fun stuff. Couple reasons why I want to kind of highlight this as well for you guys. If they file for unemployment after a termination for cause, your documentation is what wins or loses that unemployment hearing. If you've got good documentation, you can articulate your case, and it's because it's a direct violation of your employee handbook, your code of conduct, your attendance policy, your expectations for the job that they signed off and agreed to, you most likely will win. Okay. It also makes it pretty easy to know what's coming, aka them getting fired, when they've been written up twice and they know they just messed up a third time. They shouldn't be blindsided by a termination. Okay. So keep that in mind, because I see a lot of people that have to fire somebody, and again, they don't document, they don't write up, they don't do any of this. It's just like the 17th time's the charm. And then like all of a sudden, the employee's like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. Well, now they're mad. Now they're going to go try to maybe file unemployment. They're going to just, who knows? Okay. Nobody should ever be blindsided by a termination. I would say the same case if you're in high school and you're dating somebody. I don't know, maybe high school is a bad example. I don't know. I can't think back to what dating life was like. I don't really want to. But like getting broken up with, it shouldn't be blindsided. There should have been conversations leading up to it. And if you're not willing to change or this or that, it shouldn't be a shock to anyone. And it's the same thing with firing employees. If you've done everything we just talked about, it's pretty obvious when they're getting fired. And it makes it a lot easier to do. If the reason you hate it is because you hate the reaction, write them up, document it like you should, and it's going to make it at least a little bit easier. And so here's my advice. Have a documented standard for your company. Hold your people accountable to it and document if they fall short to protect yourself and your company from future pain. Thanks for plugging into this week's episode. I hope you're able to take a few nuggets away from it to implement into your business. Remember, knowledge without implementation is useless. If you're curious about what we do and how we help painting contractors all over North America, schedule a free business analysis meeting with us at www.elitebusinessadvisors.com. Our entire team of advisors have ran and managed painting companies just like myself and are here to help support you on your journey. We have packages available for contractors at every stage of business, from flying solo and just starting out, all the way to multi-million-dollar businesses. And lastly, if you loved this episode, please leave us a rating and a review. It helps others on the platform find our podcast, and it could be the best blessing that's ever happened to them thanks to you. Thanks for plugging in, and we'll see you back for next week's episode.